For the best part of over a decade, football has been dominated by two men. And we know exactly who those men are. And now, are we in a different era? Is football potentially being dominated by two other men? Well, we're going to find out in this episode today. You are now listening to the best podcast talking about football on the internet space. No one does top 10s like the Streets Won't Forget podcast does. The Watch Mojo of football podcasts. Welcome to the Streets Won't Forget podcast. I'm Dodzi, and today I'm joined by Louie. I'm joined by Keelan. We are the magical trio. You can call us the MSN of football podcasts. Last time we were here, us three, we did the top 10 players of all time. This time we're going to be doing the top 10 players who are currently playing football today. Now, the first question I asked you last time round, I'm going to ask the same thing. When you're doing the top 10, in fact, before I get into that actually, please, if you're listening to this on Spotify, give us a follow. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube, we would love a subscriber from everyone that's watching because we need the AdSense money. We need to afford these sessions in order to give you guys the content, so that would be great. And of course, if you're listening to this on, if you're watching the TikToks, please follow us and keep engaging, keep absolutely ripping us for our opinions. We love the engagement. But yeah, let's get into it. So when choosing the top 10, Keelan, I'll come to you first actually. Top 10 players in the world, right? What was your criteria going into this? Like, what sort of stuff were you looking at?
So I think for my list personally, I think a lot of the list is more or less entirely based just on this season. I think just the nature of who the better sort of players in the world are at the moment. I don't think too many of them have been sort of dominating for ages. I think there's kind of a lot of sort of young players sort of in my list, and I feel like just a lot of younger talent is getting more of a chance. So the sort of list is turning around a bit more. So I think there's a few players which I sort of put in just because they've sort of been consistently at a decent level across the years. But I think with my list, I tried to sort of very much do it like based on this season, who I think the top 10 players are this season. So
you don't think you've got any players in your list that are just on form? You think those players in your list are actually the 10 best players, right?
On form this season, a lot of these players, and there might be some players on my list that might have not been top 100 in the world last year, but I think in terms of this season and the sort of sample size that we have this season, I think they are. I don't think it's form by the time you're 3/4 away through the season, but they can all say they've had a top season this year at the very least.
That's fair. Louis, what was your criteria?
So it's kind of similar, but then there's a couple where I've put them on not just form, but it's a combination of form and also what they've achieved in their career, because obviously we've had this discussion before, and for me, when you're judging the best players in the world, it's not the most on form. Obviously that contributes towards it, but you're thinking about the whole package. So there's a couple of people I have on my list who are quite high up, and maybe on form they're not top 5, maybe as an overall footballer they're top 1, 2, and they've dropped down to 4, 5 because the form's not as great. So I've kind of taken it both ends of it, so heritage as well as form as well.
Yeah, that's fair. With me, I've tried to do it off heritage and form, but in particular with the form, I think players I can actually see continuing the form, not necessarily players who I think are just having a bit of a great moment. Also, what they've done in the game, I appreciate some players who are talented might not have achieved anywhere near as much as others in the game. Maybe due to the team they're at, but that's a factor, and I have to consider that. So, some interesting things from the list. We had quite a few. Shout out everyone that voted. There's only one defender who received a vote in that list. Can you guess, Louis? Can you guess who that is?
Is it an Arsenal player?
No, okay. It's not an Arsenal player. Okay. Keelan voted for this player, so that's why I didn't ask Keelan.
Yeah. Is it a Real Madrid player?
No. It's a Man City player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Ruben Dias.
Ruben Dias. Okay. Only defender to make this list.
I had, in my provisional that I sent you first, I had Eder Militao.
Yeah, good player.
But then I thought of the attacking talent we've got in the world at the moment. And for me, the overall centre-back, not market, but the overall level of the centre-backs in the world at the moment isn't as high. And I think the reason being is because every team sort of presses as a unit and defends as a unit. So individually, centre backs don't have as much X factor as what they did back in the day, where obviously you'd see Maldini would win tackles 2-on-1. You know, you'd see Ramos scoring goals. Even a couple of years ago, Van Dijk. I think now it's more of a collective unit.
100%.
And the goalkeeper and the back 6-7 contribute to that, as well as the forwards. I mean, you look at a big club like United, a big club like Arsenal, the best team in the league. You've got Jesus. His best attribute is probably, you know, he's great at hold-up play, but his best attribute is being a nuisance.
Yeah,
and it's
one of them.
One of them, of course. But it's the same as, you know, United with Weghorst.
Yeah.
City obviously had it last year. They didn't play without a striker. You know, the teams are more of a collective unit now. So it's not to say that there's not great centre-backs in the world. I just think the attacking talent now can do way more than what they could back in the day as well.
Yeah, I agree. We're in a transitional phase in terms of best defenders. You've had Ramos up there, Thiago Silva up there. They're probably not quite as the level they were in terms of years gone by.
Thiago Silva's still great, by the way.
Yeah, still really good. But, you know, now you've got defenders this season like Saliba, Martinez, Kim and Jai, who've really emerged. But maybe they haven't done it for long enough or done
Araujo.
things. Yeah, Araujo as well. They probably haven't. Upamecano, De Ligt, you know, he's having a good season for Bayern, but it's kind of like all of them, apart from maybe De Ligt, their first real top season. So you can't really. It's tough to have a defender in, I'd say. Also, only one keeper received a vote. Keelan, Alisson Becker. You had him in your list.
That's a great shout by that's an
good
actual
shit.
I'm the only one that voted for him.
You're the only one that actually one other person.
Yeah, it saves Liverpool like 30 goals a season.
Yeah.
The guy is serious
Crazy
ball,
keeper.
like crazy goalkeeper. Like
he is.
You
Again,
had him fourth.
I had him fourth. Yeah, and
Wow.
I back that. The impact on the team. He's fourth best in the world. Like
Yeah, fair.
he's like ridiculous. And I'm obviously one of his biggest fans, but I think that the 10 outfield players I've got, I don't know if I can justify having a goalkeeper in there. Especially not like if, for instance, it was Neuer in his prime, where he'd revolutionised the position, then I probably would have had Neuer in his prime in there if we were doing it then. But I think now Alisson's an amazing shot stopper. He's a great sweeper, but it's not like he's nothing we haven't seen before.
Yeah,
and I think as a goalkeeper, to be judged in the top 10 in the world, you have to be either immensely unique or just world class in every single department. And Alisson has got some flaws.
I think that's fair. Alisson's a top keeper. The reason I probably didn't have him in my list is because ultimately Liverpool are absolutely struggling at the moment, 7th place, you know. So I don't know, it's really hard for me, as I said, to put him over those 9 other players.
Yeah, out of the cups as well, out of all the cups.
Yeah.
So they can't win anything this year.
Courtois, another shout. None of us had him. He didn't actually receive any votes, but he's definitely probably the second at least best keeper in the world.
Not my cup of tea, really.
No?
I mean, he's a great traditional, conventional goalkeeper. And he suits Real Madrid because they don't really have... It's not like they have tactics.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like... sit deep, counter, got 2 of the best transitional players in the world.
That's why they want Ancelotti out.
Yeah.
No real tactics.
And I mean, we've seen against Liverpool, he's pretty shambolic with his feet. We've seen that in the World Cup as well.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a traditional goalkeeper, he's fantastic. But again, as I said, with goalkeepers, you have to be like a Neuer, where you've revolutionised the department to be in this list for me.
100%. I think that's fair. We'll get into honourable mentions now. Keelan, I'm very sad to say the best Argentinian player, in your opinion, Julian Alvarez, didn't get any votes. Do you want to speak on that one? Because that was a shout. Julian Alvarez, best Argentinian player. Do you think maybe in about a year's time he'll be on this list?
On this list, but for regards to my opinion on the matter, there's no Argentinian players in my list.
Yeah.
So, obviously without saying too much, but I don't really know much more I can say on that. Obviously, I wasn't saying he was top 10 players in the world. I said he could be, but he is rotation as it stands. But whenever he comes on, he rivals some of the people in probably your guys' lists in terms of output. He's done it in less games, so if that's to his discredit, fair enough. But he wasn't in my list. I do think there is at least 10 other people better. But
I think in about 2-3 years' time, maybe. I mean, we still got a lot to see of him. At the end of the day, he's had a good World Cup. He hasn't done anything to the level where I'm like really taking note of him yet. If I'm being honest, he's just come on and been productive when he's come on.
But then that's what I say about like looking at it this season. Like, if you're giving other people haven't done anything honourable this season. This is Alvarez's debut season.
Yeah, and he's done all right, man.
He's done all right, but what? Just because some guy done something 2 years ago, and they're both having the exact same mediocre season.
Nah, yeah, because like Alvarez has come on in these games,
top 10
right?
players in the world right now.
Yeah, he's not. He can't. Obviously, you agree. He can't be in that list, but. Yeah, look, 12 goals is good in 34 games. It's good, man. But like, I've seen guys in the past have good seasons off the bench, and then the next season not really do anything. Like, he does
scoring bare goals against like League One teams and Championship teams in the cups.
Guys run riot in the Champions League, and then they have a bad season the next year.
The Champions League,
they completely disappear.
Yeah, but that's the Champions League.
The elite level of football.
And it obviously, with a lot, like when age comes into it as well, you can't be naive to age. So if you're some guy's poor this year and he's 26, you might be like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah. He might come back. He could still be a world class player. But if a certain guy is having a mediocre season, he's like 35. You've got to acknowledge it's a bit different, like, because most people will retire by that point. And guys like Philip Lahm, Philip Lahm's the best example. But like that guy literally retired on winning the World Cup for Germany, and then. I can't remember, but he retired on a high, and a lot of those players do retire on a high because they know it gets tough from there onwards. And
Van der Sar did it. He retired after United won the league.
I don't really get what's your point there. If you retire on a high,
my point is the fact that a lot of people do, or someone like Ferdinand, he wins the league, he goes QPR for a year, and then he retires. Yeah. These guys go from literally being the best centre back in the Premier League to playing in the Championship to QPR to being retired. So you've got to acknowledge how much can happen in 2 years.
No one would have looked at that as a bad thing if Ferdinand went to like LA Galaxy or somewhere like that. No one would have looked at that as a bad thing. They would have looked at that as him going and seeing out his career. But because he went to QPR and they got relegated, everyone rips him for it. But realistically, if he went to LA Galaxy and came like 7th in the league in the MLS, no one's going to care.
But I'm just saying, with regards to that angle, the facts are that he was a Premier League winning centre-back, and then the next year he was a Championship level centre-back. So regardless of if he didn't play it smart, he probably should have went LA Galaxy or something instead of QPR. But facts of the matter is he's gone from being a Premier League winning centre-back to a Championship level centre-back in 1 year. So I think you've got to understand how much can happen in a year, and that's just what I was doing in my list.
Yeah, players can fall off. We don't know. Yeah. I mean, and that's ultimately, I guess, why you can't.
Argentina, sorry to interrupt, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
No Argentina players is crazy.
I don't know why you're surprised, to be honest. Like,
I'm not surprised because it's you, but I don't get how after the World Cup Messi's had, he's not at least 10th or 9th.
We'll get into that.
And the season as well.
We will get into that.
MPG. I've seen your salary agendas.
Let's save that because no Argentinian players, no Di Maria in the list. No, I'm joking. We obviously know who we're talking about there. Marcus Rashford, the most informed player, I've said it this season in Europe, only received 1 vote, and that was from Keelan, to be fair. Doesn't make the list, even though he's got 27 goals, which is, I think, is the second most all competitions behind Haaland, 9 assists as well. Should he have, Louie, do you think he should have made the list? I mean, he wasn't in your list, he wasn't in my list. No.
The thing is with Rashford, right, and he's great, and when he fell off, I was one of the only people who had faith in him, but he's very much a purple patch player. So he will have a season where he'll score like 20, 25 goals, and then the next season he won't. Until he builds that consistency, I can't have him in this list. And if you're judging it on this season, he's done amazing, and he's scored in most of the big games, but he has padded in Europa League and in League and FA Cup as well. He has like scored some goals against some minnows, and he's not playing in the Champions League as well. So it's hard for me to have a player in the top 10 of a list if they're not playing in the Champions League, or they haven't at least played like in the group stage, in the knockout stage. He hasn't played in the Champions League, and that's why I haven't got another man in there who we'll probably mention shortly. Because for me, that's the elite level of football. It's not the quality of the Premier League overall is top, But in terms of the pressure, in terms of having to go away to these top European teams, you know, your Real Madrids, your Bayern Munichs, these cauldrons where, you know, you feel like you've lost before you've even gone into the stadium.
But Rashford did that though. He went to Barcelona and had a great, very solid
Barcelona,
game.
who came third in their group behind Benfica and Inter Milan.
Who are top of La Liga, ahead of Real Madrid, who are strong favourites to win the Champions League.
La Liga's dead. United have beat pretty much every team in the Liga this year apart from Madrid.
And yeah, Barca's beat Real Madrid
league.
like 3 times this year.
It's not comparable though. It's not comparable. I genuinely think Brighton would come second in the Liga or third. I genuinely.
So why Real Madrid should be there then? Otherwise, that no Real Madrid player should
Real
be
Madrid,
in
they
this
just
list.
have that heritage in the Champions League. They just have that heritage in the Champions League, and he's done it against Barcelona. Great, but this is not a vintage Barcelona side.
Fairs.
And in the second leg, they didn't have Pedri, which was a huge advantage.
Yeah. Or Busquets in that?
Busquets wasn't in the first leg.
Oh, okay.
They had to play Frenkie as a 6, which isn't his natural position. You know, it's not a vintage Barca side. They've not proven to me they can do anything in Europe yet. They lost to a really, really bang average Inter Milan side as well.
Yeah.
Who didn't have Lukaku. Lautaro at the time hadn't scored for a while when they played. It's just an average Inter Milan side. Again, give me Brentford over Inter Milan at the moment. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
So for me, unless Rashford's in the Champions League or anyone else is in the Champions League and they're scoring goals week in, week out, they're dragging their team through victories, I can't put them in the top 10.
Fair enough. I mean, Champions League is a big part of my criteria as well. And 2 other players, to be fair, who haven't made the list, who I think are very unlucky, who have done well in Champions League and are doing exceptionally well in the league. Probably one of the best duos at the moment. Victor Osimhen and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia did not make the list. No, I mean, we all had Kvara on our list. Louie, you had Victor Osimhen at 7, which, you know, I think we all slept on Osimhen because he's having some season at Napoli. I think it's 25 goals in all competitions for Osimhen, 21 in like 25 in the league. Kvara 12 goals, 10 assists, I think, or 12 assists in the in the league in 23 games. For me, when I watch Kvara, the clips I've seen of him, I think we're looking at a potential future Ballon d'Or winner, man.
So good.
Like, first season to come into Napoli and to do what he's done, you know, take Napoli from a team who haven't had a bottle recently. In years gone by, they've lost out to Juve, despite having maybe the better team, you can say, under Sarri. But he's going to lead them to their first league title, as well as Osimhen, since 1983, or I don't know what year.
And the way it's
potential
looking,
Champions League final as well.
The way it's looking is potential Champions League final. And to be honest, they can beat anyone.
Yeah.
They can't. I don't think they will win the Champions League. Obviously, I would love for them to win the Champions League, but they can beat anyone, especially with those 2 in the team, because those 2 are so good. Osimhen, you give him any cross or pass into the box, he's getting a shot away and he's making the keeper make a save. Whether that's 10 foot in the air, whether that's smashed at him along the floor, he is making the keeper make a save. He's just you can't win a header against him. You can't win a challenge against him in the box. He's not like a great polished player, but he's getting better at it. He can run the channels better now. His link up's not like Harry Kane level, but he's so good. He reminds me of a young Didier Drogba.
Yeah.
In terms of how aggressive he is, how many goals he scores in big games, how he always steps up. How even when he's having a bad game, he will get 2-3 shots away. If he doesn't score from 2-3 shots, the next one's going in. That's what the best strikers do. That's what Haaland does. These strikers, when they miss a chance, they don't cry about it. They go and they get the next one and they score. That's what he's been doing this year. And for me, he's been top 2 or 3 strikers in Europe this year. The only reason he's not higher in my list is because this is the first season he's really done it to this level.
I agree, and I think, you know, in seasons it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, whether he goes to Man United or another club. He's heavily linked to Man United at the moment. Whether he stays at Napoli, whatever happens with him, I think he's been building year on year since that season at Lille. I think, he's definitely a player in about a year's time. If he did this list, he'd probably be in my list. Kvara as well. I think I've spoken to him enough. He's going to be even better in about a year's time.
Just signed a new deal, 4-year deal with Napoli.
Wow. I mean, it was his transfer value at the moment must be 100 odd mil.
I think the only issue he's got is the left wing market at the moment is stacked, and most top teams have a top left winger. Whereas Osimhen, there's more wiggle room because obviously you've got United, you've got Chelsea, you've got other teams like Bayern Munich, stuff like that, who need a striker, even perhaps PSG. For me, Osimhen's a Chelsea striker written all over him. He's got the same sort of style as Drogba, Costa, someone like that. I think he'd be great for United, but I think United would be better off with Harry Kane, and Chelsea would be better off with Osimhen. Just because he's their type of striker. He's not like, don't get me wrong, Drogba was polished on the ball, but Diego Costa wasn't. He's just someone who will just eat chances up, and he will make goals out of nothing from a nothing ball into the box. And for me, that's a Chelsea striker. You
mentioned Man United possibly. You said Kane would be a better option. Well, Kane
right now,
very close to making this list. He actually came 11th in the votes. Didn't make the list. He was in my top 10 for a bit, but I took him out. Louie, I don't think he was in your top 10 either. Keelan, he was in yours.
That's 6 of the guys I named not in the top 10.
Wow. 6 saves. Damn, that's good counting from you, to be fair. I didn't put Kane in my top 10 because I thought ultimately, as good as he is, I think he's a worthy top 10 player. But what do his goals lead to, unfortunately? Ultimately, what do his goals lead to? Because at the end of the day, man seen Di Natale back, bare goals for Udinese, bro. I'll never have him in my top 10 players at the time when he was in his peak. I'm not saying Kane and Di Natale are at a similar level. Maybe they are. Di Natale was a baller. But Kane, if you're scoring goals and for years and years and they're not leading to something, at some point you have to ask yourself, like, come on, what is it? Especially if you talk about Osimhen, who's revolutionised Napoli, Kane isn't actually doing that for Spurs. I don't see how. And again, the big moments, I'm not saying Kane's a flat track bully. I think he notices his presence in big games. But if you're talking the best, in those big games, you have to do something, man, to move the needle. And Kane doesn't do that for England, doesn't do it enough.
You said he's not a flat track bully.
Yeah.
Is he not? Realistic, when you think about it, because every final or important defining game I've seen him in, yes, he scored goals against United, against Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, etc. But those games, in the grand scheme of things, haven't really meant anything for Spurs.
Yeah.
In terms of the Champions League final, I mean, I know he was carrying an injury, but
it was poor.
It was poor. Yeah. The Euro final, he was poor.
Yeah. World Cup semis.
Yeah, he should have squared it. And if you don't square it, you've got to score.
Yeah.
What else? League Cup final a couple of years ago for Spurs. I didn't notice he was even on the pitch against City.
Yeah.
When Mourinho got sacked. I don't think he's. I don't know. It might just be Spurs, man. It might just be a Spursy thing. But for me, he's not. I can't justify him not being a flat track bully right now, which is why I say, go to United or even, for instance, a Bayern Munich. I know he wants that Premier League goal record. If he wants that Premier League goal record, go Man United. You've got a chance of even just winning a couple of FA Cups, man, a Europa League. Like, you've got, for someone as good as Harry Kane to retire with no trophies would be a travesty for him, for football, for England. Because ultimately, kids are going to look back at him in 50 years' time and they're just going to be like, oh yeah, he was a great goal scorer, but he never won anything. He's not going to be in like an all-time debate.
Sadly,
whereas if he wins one Premier League title and he breaks that goal record, he's a shoo-in for the best striker we've seen in this country.
Yeah.
Right now, he can break that goal record. And is he above Shearer? Is he above Rooney?
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, that's an interest. I've been thinking about it recently about Kane in terms of England strikers. I actually think he's been I think he's been more consistent in his career than Rooney was. I actually
probably.
do. But obviously, he can't. It's hard to put him above Rooney.
Rooney stepped up in finals, man.
Yeah,
constantly.
Keelan, you had Kane on your list, and obviously he's not on the list. Also had Saka on your list, and we'll get into Saka actually.
Yeah.
But Kane, do you think it's fair him not being on the list overall?
I think this is where I realised that I've done this list completely different to anyone else. But I just think that's harsh. Like earlier you were saying about how the modern game teams, these cohesive units that Strivers won, and it's just so easy to look at Kane and be like, every final he's lost, he's played badly. And it's like, Euro final, like, it wasn't that, the whole England team weren't great. Like, what more do you want from him? The Champions League final, no one in that game can say they really had a good performance. Like, he was as good as Salah or Mane in that game. It's just Liverpool got a dodgy penalty and they went on, won the game. They had the tactics right, in which, yeah, Kane is an absolute idiot for staying at Spurs this whole time. Like, he has literally put this on himself. But in terms of just like looking beyond that, which I like to do, like, for him to not be a top 10, I think, I can't believe he's not top 10.
You say about the dodgy penalty Salah got in the Champions League final, right? In Kane, one of the biggest moments when his country need him, step up against France, Lloris hasn't saved the penalty for like 4 years, and he smashes it over the bar. If that's Messi, if that's Ronaldo, if that's Benzema...
It's been Messi.
Yeah, it has been Messi, to be fair.
It has been Messi.
Kane's just not 35 yet to win his fifth Copa America.
It has been Messi. Not at that stage, though. Not at that stage of a World Cup.
In Copa America final.
In a Copa America final. Cool. But yeah. Kane has now... What Messi had in the bank is he'd been there and done that already before.
And he scored his first pen as well.
Scored his first pen, and then it's not like it was saved.
He missed 1 out of 2. Messi missed 0 out of 1.
He skied it over the bar.
Yeah, he skied it, but...
Just hit it. Like,
no one else has done really much that game. Yeah, like, he's missed a pen, but I'm not doing a top 10 list based on if some guy scored 1 pen.
Yeah,
and then I think, so the point I was going to go into next is, you say about like winning a trophy. I think, yeah, like, if he went Man U, won a Premier League title, that would sort of do well for his record. Like, he would possibly be remembered. But I feel like if he'd done someone like Van Persie, who's just gone from Arsenal to the team that's already won the league, and then won the league, that I don't think someone like him's really going to be, like, if you're talking 20 years down the line, not many people get remembered.
I disagree.
I don't think he's going to get remembered anyway. I think we talk about people like Shearer now, who is the top goal scorer. I think if Kane beats that, he's going to get spoken about more than guys like Van Persie that have 1 league title, or this person that has a League Cup and the Champions League. Like,
I disagree. I think Van Persie, if he didn't go to United and win that title, was on the verge of a streets won't forget baller.
Yeah, probably, to be fair.
Because if he didn't win that Premier League title, he's just someone who you look at and think, yeah, he was a great player, but that's it. He went to United.
Like Torres, like, rated.
Yeah, like Torres, exactly. He's probably the level above that now. And the fact he went to United, he took that number 20 jersey.
Yeah.
And then he said, I'm winning number 20, and he won number 20.
You got to think, right? Van Persie's best season, right, in his career was actually the season before he joined United at Arsenal. No one ever speaks about that because he didn't win anything.
Facts. His most influential season was the season.
His most remembered season is the Man United season. But
and he carried that season as well for United.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie. Everyone was you mentioned Rio earlier. Rio was okay that season, but it was literally Van Persie and Carrick, and then Rooney was okay as well. Other than that, no one was good.
Yeah,
we had Smalling playing right back.
And similarly, imagine like Gareth Bale or Luis Suarez. Gareth Bale, in my head, I remember him most for the Spurs days. I think that was when he was like, that was when he had a team on his back. He was the man for that team. He was never the man for Real Madrid. Suarez is a bit different. He was top for Barca. But if they had moved to them clubs, and win those trophies, you are looking back at them and think, and in the same tier as like a Torres, and being like,
if Suarez never went to Barcelona, no one is ever mentioning him as a top 3 striker of all time.
Yeah, have to say that.
And it's the same. If Bale never goes to Real Madrid, people are never saying he's better, he's had a better career, he's a better player than Neymar. No one's ever saying that if he doesn't go to Real Madrid. If he stays at Spurs and he goes to like United, and then they have to carry on how they've been since 2013, no one is mentioning Bale in the same breath as Neymar. It's the same as Harry Kane. He's not going to be in the same breath as Rooney and Shearer until he wins that Premier League title, because people look at it and say, you scored loads of goals, but it's because you played so many seasons.
Yeah, and they'll say like, oh, you were the only good Spurs player they had. Of course you scored the goals. Yeah,
you're playing for a decent team and you were the only goal scorer they had. Blah, blah, blah. Exactly.
Yeah. Moving on to another English player, the last player I want to touch on in our honourable mentions is Bukayo Starboy Saka. Didn't make the list, didn't make the top 10. He was in both your lists. He actually wasn't in my list. I didn't have him in my list.
Was he in my list?
I think you had him at about 10th or something. But
7th.
yeah, 7th.
Oh, I had him. Yeah, I had him 10th.
The form right now, he's definitely in the top 10. I just think Arsenal have great players, man. Like Odegaard. For me, we don't have a clear best player as much as everyone actually thinks it's Saka. If you watch Arsenal game in, game out, I think you see Odegaard is unbelievable. You see Partey is unbelievable. I'd even throw Jesus up there, to be fair, on his day. I'd have him right up there in terms of our best players. So again, and Saka hasn't done it yet in the Champions League. When he does it in the Champions League, we can have the conversation in top 10.
Yeah.
He was floating around my top 10. Definitely one of the best wingers in the world at the moment. But he's just got a little bit more to prove yet for me to put him in the top 10.
I have no doubt he will prove it though.
Yeah, I hope so as well, because he's, as I said, he surprised my expectations at this point.
There's obviously Fabrizio saying that contract's signed.
Yeah.
But if I'm Saka, right, I'm looking at Real Madrid thinking, these men don't have a right winger.
Nah, don't go Real Madrid, man.
I'm thinking these men don't have a right winger.
Build the legacy at Arsenal.
No, you're right.
Build the legacy at Arsenal, bro. Fair enough if Arsenal were like 4th, 3rd, and it's a thing of, will they win the league?
Should Thierry Henry have just stayed at Arsenal for his whole career?
In season 2, if it's season 2 of Henry's career and he hasn't won the Premier at Arsenal, I'm saying to him, leave. No, but it's season 7. If Saka gets to season 7 and he's won league titles, he's gone in Champions League finals and hasn't won it, just like Henry did, should move.
If Saka, in my opinion, if Saka wins the title this year, I don't see
what more he can do.
I don't see what more he can do with Arsenal. I can't see. I mean, I could be proven wrong. I might be. I can't see you guys winning.
Sound like Gary Neville, man.
No, I can't see you guys winning the Champions League. Whereas if you go to Real Madrid, you're guaranteed one of those. You're guaranteed. Let's be honest. No one's winning a Ballon d'Or at Arsenal.
Nah, how you know that?
Has anyone ever done it before?
No, but we haven't won a league title in 20 years. No one said at the start of the season we weren't going to even be close to years.
Even when Henry was winning league titles and scoring so many goals a season, he wasn't winning Ballon d'Or because the Serie A at the time was more fashionable. The Liga,
but the Prem's the best league in the world right now.
The Prem's the best league in the world, but in terms of the overall outlook of football fans around the world, unless you're winning a Champions League or you're either playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona or basically them two, you're not winning the Champions. You're not winning the Ballon d'Or. Nah,
I just think that's such a that's a casual take.
How is it a casual take?
That's a mad casual take, bro.
How is it a casual take? Because no one's done it before.
How can someone do such a stupid narrative? Like,
I heard Gary Neville say it last season.
You don't just win everything at one club. Like what Messi should have left after his first season at Barca. No,
because they're Barcelona.
Huh?
No, because they're Barcelona.
Yeah, and think that institutions change. Like look at Man City now. Man City
still haven't won the Champions League. And still haven't won the Champions League.
They've won the Prem,
and why haven't they won the Champions League? And why haven't they won the Champions League?
Because they haven't won it.
Exactly.
Give us the chance actually to play in the Champions League and see, because I personally think this is a different Arsenal than years gone by. Bro,
we're going to look back on this in 3 years' time, right? And Arsenal are going to have a couple of good Champions League campaigns, maybe quarterfinals, semi-finals. Fine, you guys aren't winning it.
It's funny, you never hear this talk for United, right?
United aren't winning the...
It's just stupid. It's not even based on opinion. It's just based on...
Exactly, that's the thing.
Oh, yeah, like Arsenal's not won it before, so my fact is... I'm saying a factual statement, so it's never going to happen.
So heritage means nothing in football.
You're not analysing anything. You're just saying the statements for the sake of saying it.
I'm analysing something.
It's like those Man U fans, they're like, oh, yeah, if Ten Hag wants him, I'll sign him. Like, it's not... You're not saying anything. You're just...
That's not the same, though.
Agreeing with what's already happened.
It's not, though.
Agreeing with facts.
No. You guys are looking at this from an Arsenal fan perspective.
Not even, bro.
You are.
Bro, the grass ain't always greener.
Okay,
Coutinho left Barcelona, right? And look at where Liverpool went on, and look at where Barcelona went.
And I said at the time, Coutinho was not that good.
Yeah, whether he's that good or not, different sort of story. But he's gone to have what in his eyes a better career. And now he's nowhere to... He's at Aston Villa, bro. I don't know necessarily if that would have happened.
You made the same point about Bale, right? If Bale won one league title at Spurs...
Well, Bale came 5th for Spurs, bro. Arsenal might win the league this season. That's the difference.
Just say in a hypothetical situation, Bale did win the league for Spurs. Should he have stayed at Spurs?
Maybe.
No, man. Come on now.
Maybe.
Why not? Should Ronaldo have stayed at United?
Maybe, why not?
No, man.
Why? No, because we're not. Go on.
That was different as well. Like, look at if I'm Saka, I'm looking at Camavinga at Real Madrid right now. That guy was
He's back playing every week now.
Huh?
He's back playing
He's
every
not
week.
playing every week.
Yes, he is. He plays every week.
Okay, maybe he wasn't.
He's playing every week this season, and
He's not the whole season.
Germany got dropped about a month and a half ago.
Okay, a month and a half. That's more than halfway
he's
through
been
the
playing.
season.
He's played
and
a lot.
he was there all of last year as well.
Yeah,
Didn't get many
he
minutes.
played in every single game in the Champions League.
Yeah, but if I'm Saka, I don't want to go to Real Madrid to sit on the bench
And
for a
who
year.
was Camavinga's competition?
Like, he doesn't need to prove himself to get an opportunity.
Who was Camavinga's competition? Casemiro.
Yeah.
If Saka goes there, who's going to be his competition? Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Come on now, man.
But the
Come
thing
on
is,
now.
right?
Oh, they'll probably still play Valverde. It suits their system. Like,
Yeah,
you don't
Valverde
know
hasn't
that.
been playing on the right this year.
Nah, but if we want to make statements like that,
on
we
now,
can just
man.
make a statement like, oh, no English player should go to Real Madrid. Look at Michael Owen when he went to Real Madrid. He was a Ballon d'Or winner, went to Real Madrid, and he's back at Newcastle after a season. Look at David Beckham when he went to Real Madrid. Finished early,
Michael
went to
Owen's a weirdo,
LA Galaxy. Well,
You're just
Michael Owen was a supreme talent, bro. And
forecasting the future to be exactly the same as the past.
Listen,
Like,
I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I could be wrong, but what my inkling is, he's never going to win the Champions League at Arsenal. He's never going to win the Ballon d'Or at Arsenal. For me, he's good enough to do those things, but he can't do it at Arsenal. The way I look at it is, if Thierry Henry, that's probably the best player we've seen in the Premier League, give or take him or Ronaldo, right? Was it 2006?
yeah.
2006.
What Champions
No,
League?
2006 and 2005, right? Where he came second in the...
Or 2004,
Yeah,
2003, I think. Yeah.
If he can't win it after scoring 30 goals, getting 20 assists, whatever it was, making a World Cup final, Champions League final, scoring all these goals, Saka can't do it at Arsenal. If Thierry Henry can't do it at Arsenal, Saka cannot do it at Arsenal.
Fairs. I think it's a different Arsenal, personally. That's the way.
I do think it's a different Arsenal, but let's not forget, Henry was an invincible as well.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's the best Arsenal. Yeah,
that's the best Arsenal, and he still didn't win a Ballon d'Or. So that was you at the best we've ever seen Arsenal, and no one in that team could still get close to a Ballon. Not even, for instance, win it. Right?
Yeah.
No one, your best team ever, your best player ever, could not do it. Why would that change now, when Real Madrid are still dominant forces in the Champions League? You know, Barcelona are on a resurgence as well. It's just...
You just said Barcelona. It's not a vintage Barcelona team, bro.
It's not an amazing Barcelona. They're on a resurgence, though.
Somewhat.
And
They're just as good as they were like a couple years ago, to be fair.
And I think this isn't to say that United are better than Arsenal. They're not. But I genuinely think...
It's Gary Neville hat.
No. I genuinely think if you've got more chance of winning a Ballon d'Or if you have a great season at Man United than you have if you have a great season at Arsenal. And that's not because... I'm just saying the size of the clubs and everything that comes with it, you have more chance of winning a Ballon d'Or if you have a world-class season at Man United than if you have a world-class season at Arsenal. That's just the way it is.
Could I quickly say on that, does that not undermine the Ballon d'Or a bit to you then? The statement you just made.
No, but it's because...
look at the witness, there's no player from the past 10 years had a good career because he hasn't won the Ballon d'Or. Is Michael Owen better than... Ballon d'Or is voted. It's not won.
What I'm saying is...
within the rules of football, it is voted.
In 20 years' time,
I think it's a nice bonus to win as a player, but I think to focus on it as the be-all and end-all as football
in
is
20 years'
ridiculous.
time, who's going to be remembered more? Right? Someone like Luka Modric, or for instance,
Van der Vaart,
or Wesley Sneijder.
Yeah, obviously
You
Modric.
just named, who's going to be remembered more? Casemiro or
Who's going to be remembered? Who's going to be remembered? Who's going to be remembered more? Casemiro or Modric?
Okay, and then
it's going to be Modric, isn't it?
Do you not play more or less like if you, as a footballer? Do you not think the main people you expect to remember you are the fans of the team you play for? So I think if you just focus on that and the players that
so everyone might as well be fucking Lee Trundle, bruv.
Huh?
Everyone might as well be Lee Trundle and just play at Swansea for 15 years doing skills. Like, come on, like if you're
risky, no one talks about half these players anyway. That's all I'm saying. These got like 90% of footballers get forgotten.
Who's going to be remembered more?
I was born in 2000. I couldn't really tell you many of the players which were doing bits.
Why is Ronaldinho still talked about to this day?
To this day, what? He
he's
retired
a
like
8
years ago, like 10 years ago.
Hey,
it's not that
we're gonna have to
ago.
get into this top 10 because this debate.
That's fine.
We've got all sides of the coin here. All right, so number 10 on this list, he made none of our list personally. 22 goals this season, 10 assists in all competitions. Arguably one of the best African players to ever play the sport football. Mo Salah running down the wing, number 10 this list, and you know what? I think that's fair.
I think that's fair. And I'm a professional Salah hater. And I think that's fair.
I regret kind of not putting him in my list because whilst Liverpool are having a trash season, Salah's still putting up numbers. You know, his performances have dropped off, but one thing that never drops off is his numbers, his consistency. For me, on his day, not many more players in the world who are more effective, more destructive than Salah. But his performances have dropped off. Do you think they've dropped off to a point where he shouldn't be in this list anymore?
I think Liverpool have dropped off. Is the problem? I think if we were doing this list last year, he'd probably be top 5 for people. But to go from it's harsh on him because to go from playing in every single game possible last year to then trying to do that again next year is tough, man. Yeah. And that's why I worry for United next year as well. It's really tough. And especially when, obviously, the man who is so important to you in Sadio Mane, who in terms of leading the press, Firmino as well had huge responsibility in that team, having to adapt to playing with a proper forward now in Nunez, and you know there's Gakpo there as well. There's a lot of changes. The midfield's another year older. They've not got much legs left. Obviously Van Dijk's not been himself. I think the whole level of the team's dropped off. So I think he's been unfortunate. If we were doing this list last year, he'd be there. He didn't cross my mind, to be honest. Which is sad because realistically, when I'm looking at my list, like how can I justify Saka and Kvaratskhelia being above Salah?
Yeah.
Really? Because they're doing now what Salah's done for the past 5 years.
Exactly. At the same rate, really.
At the same rate, yeah.
still
Salah was doing
numbers.
it in Champions League finals, man.
Yeah. And he's still popping up for goals against Real Madrid in the Champions League for Liverpool.
Hat-trick with 2 against United.
2 against United, ripped United, 7-0. Unbelievable.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah. Keelan, Salah not in the top 10. Well, no, he is in the top 10, just at 10.
Not in my top 10.
Not in your top 10. Why don't you have him?
I think, I do think I was a bit harsh on not having him, but I think it was one of those ones, like Louie said, with them being in all competitions last year and just sort of the presence they had, it feels like they're on such a decline at the moment that it's just so easy to associate that to the whole team. Obviously, he's had a bit of a decline himself, but I think, it's almost suffering from his own success a bit in the fact that Liverpool were so good last year. That you've got Salah was obviously very helpful to them last year. You see where they are now. You're like surely Salah's not really. Obviously, his outputs like that. It's easier to blame him a lot more than some of the other players. And then I think, he hasn't had a bit of midfield really behind him the whole year. So I think taking that into account, I do think it's fair. I would put him in my new top 10.
I think the issue Salah has, for me and probably for a lot of other people, is it's kind of similar to Rashford. When he's not scoring, he's when he's bad, he's really bad, and you can it's noticeably bad. Yeah. But when he's good, he's really, really good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's not like it's, for instance, when you watch Saka and he's not scoring or assisting, at least he's still doing these dribbles, these key passes, stuff like that. With Salah, it sometimes feels like, I've seen games of him this season, whether it's tactically or whether it's him, he's out on the right wing, he gets the ball in isolation, and he just can't do anything with it. And it happens to Rashford a lot this season as well. Yeah. He gets the ball out wide on the left, he tries and dribbles past someone, and he's just not that great of a dribbler.
But are we a bit harsh on that? Because I think there's certain players who are coming up on this list who aren't that effective throughout the whole 90 minutes all the time, but they pop up with a goal or assist. Because we watch Salah every week, because we watch Rashford every week, especially you watch Rashford with closer eyes with United allegiances, do you think we are a bit overcritical in terms of this whole 90-minute aspects of the game? Because I've been thinking about it recently. I'm like, honestly, throughout 90 minutes,
there's not that many players.
There's not that many players who
Prime Messi, even Prime Ronaldo wasn't effective for the whole 90 minutes.
There we go. Yeah. So I don't know. I think we are a bit harsh on that one.
I think with Saka and Kvaratskhelia, they are more pure forwards than we've sort of had in recent years as well. So they're 2 of the top wingers at the moment. Yeah. So it makes it seem like they've got really good overall play, but they're sort of the only 2 forwards with great overall play we've really seen in the past 10 years.
I think with them two, typical wingers, and it's the same as like Matoma for Brighton, even like Anthony to an extent for United. They're proper wingers.
Yeah, get that guy.
Yeah,
Get that guy.
No. But like, I'm just saying in terms of
Don't try that.
in terms of like, whereas Rashford and Salah are inside forwards, whereas these guys more are effective from the middle third to the final third, in between that area, whereas Salah and Rashford are more effective in the final third and not as effective in the middle third.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, that's fair. Salah at number 10. Moving on to number 9, we've got someone who made my list, your list, Louie. Keelan, he wasn't in your list, but you weren't the only person not to have him. He's the top scorer currently in the league this season with 15 goals, which by his standards isn't, it's not amazing, but he's still the top scorer in that league. If he wins the league this year, it'll be his 9th league title win in a row, which is crazy. 8 of the 9 last seasons, he's been the top scorer in his league. He notched his first goal in the World Cup last year, and he's won everything there is to win in club football. Robert Lewandowski. I mean, what a career.
A freak.
Yeah, what a career he's had.
Yeah.
Still doing it for Barcelona in there. And, he's going to help them to their first league title win in 3 or 4 years.
This is another point what I was saying about the Ballon d'Or. In 10 years' time, kids are going to look back and think Benzema was a better player than Lewandowski. And that's debatable.
It's debatable.
But because Lewandowski doesn't have that Ballon d'Or and Benzema
because
does.
of COVID. Don't try do this manipulation.
It's true.
Because of COVID. Because of COVID.
Okay, because of COVID.
You're comparing Benzema winning the Champions League and Lewandowski winning the Champions League. And because of COVID.
Okay, what about Luis Suarez? For instance, Luis Suarez. Who's going to look? Are people going to look back in 10 years' time and they're going to think Benzema's better than Luis Suarez?
Luis Suarez was at Barcelona and he didn't win the Ballon d'Or.
Because Messi was there.
Yeah, and no one for that's what. But because of COVID, he didn't win a Ballon d'Or.
Which is a fair point.
It is a factual statement.
Which is a fair point.
Yeah,
Fair point.
Lewandowski. For me, we're just talking about players 90 minutes, not always doing it. 90 minutes, you don't see Lewandowski most 90 minutes, but when he
so lethal, man.
When he's called upon, yeah, he's the one player I think I trust at the moment to just bag me a goal, bag me a penalty. Yeah, clinical striker. Keelan, how come he wasn't in your list, bro?
I don't think he's having a great season.
Fair.
I think there's this obviously narrative that he does stat pads against small teams, and I used to kind of like laugh at it. But the more seasons that go on, I do think it is kind of, there is some truth in it. Like, he obviously has performed in big games. Some of his more iconic games were at Dortmund, at Bayern. Sort of until he won that Champions League, he wasn't really doing much. But of course, that year when they won the Champions League, he was phenomenal. And I'm just hearing that I'm talking about like, doing it in the Champions League and all this stuff. And the guy's been knocked out. He's come third in his group with Barca. His goal tally this year is not great at all. It's an average goal tally. A lot of people are around that sort of number. They're winning the league, but God knows what's going on over there. But I just don't think at the moment he's a top player. Against Barca, against Man U, the way that Barca team got rolled over, and he was there both games, just completely non-existent. I just feel like I've seen a bit too much with him.
Fair. That's gone.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think the stat padding thing, though, I think all the top players stat pad. Yeah. If you look at like Ronaldo and Messi, if you take away it's the meme. Like, if you take away Luxembourg and Liechtenstein from Ronaldo, he doesn't have that many goals. If you take away Elche from Messi, he doesn't have that many goals. Like, they all stat pad. Haaland as well, as obviously we've seen him like score goals against league like championship sides, and got 2 against Burnley the other day. I think they all do it. And it helps because in the history books, obviously, you can stat pad an extra 100 goals.
Here's the thing earlier I was saying with Kane, what does goals lead to? You can say that's stat padding, bro. Like, Lewandowski.
I didn't actually say this. I might have said stat padding, but I meant more like my problem isn't him scoring against small teams. My problem is him not scoring against big teams. Yeah. And then I think like me generally just trying to understand like how you guys made this list. Like, what would you say is the rolling basis for your list? Because I'd say mine's like a 1 year rolling, 1-2 year rolling basis. He hasn't really done much. Like, he got where was he against Villarreal last year?
He's going to win their first title for
like 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years for a club like Barcelona to not win the title for 2 years is a lot. when they used to win it every single year.
Yeah, and then Saka's going to win Arsenal their first title in
Fantastic. He was on our list.
17 years.
He was on my list.
Yeah, like
He was on my list.
No,
bro.
I'm just because I feel like if you're going to base on heritage, whatever, cool. But I feel like you've got to be able to define it somewhat.
nah, man can define it. Yeah, it's impact, bro.
No,
Man-
but like how long does it take for someone's heritage or Riz to have expired?
Once they're
like,
actually finished.
Once they've retired?
What? No. Once they're actually.
Yeah, once
their
the numbers
performance-
actually just
once
drop.
their numbers actually drop and their performances are actually detrimental to the team. For instance, Ronaldo last year, in my opinion, was detrimental to United. He was still, his numbers were still okay, but he was detrimental to United. Lewandowski is not a detriment to his team. Lionel Messi is not a detriment to his team.
PSG fans might say different. And then I think with Ronaldo, you could say with Juve as well. A lot of Juve, and there's a lot of people who say at Juve he held them back.
He was
but
detrimental.
I just think that's quite hard to define as well. But no, yeah, you guys go on.
Yeah, look, Lewandowski for me, 15 goals. It's not amazing, yeah, but like, okay, who's the next striker behind him? Kane. He's got like 21 goals a season. Has Kane done enough, right, in this season or the last 18 months to usurp Lewandowski? Factually, no. I don't see how he has. Like scoring a couple more goals isn't.
It's also relative as well. I don't know if you man have watched La Liga. I haven't watched like a huge amount, but every single game I watch of La Liga, the teams sit in the deepest block ever, and they're all like very technical, but they sit in a deep block and they are annoying to play against. So it's a difficult league to sort of score nowadays anyway, to score 30 goals in. Whereas it's probably a lot easier nowadays to score that amount in the Bundesliga and score that amount in the Premier League, because you see teams like Bournemouth playing a high line now in the Premier League, because that's the way the Premier League's evolved. But in La Liga, it's still very much, it's very technical. There's a lot of games that are 1-0, 2-0. You get teams at the bottom of the table who hold Barcelona and Madrid to a 0-0 or a 1-0 smash and grab win. You look at, for instance, Barcelona don't score a lot of goals, but they've only conceded 13 goals this year.
Yeah, they've won most of their games actually.
Yeah, they've won most of their games. They haven't, but a lot of their games have been 1-0 or 2-0.
Yeah.
And the fact he's the top goal scorer in that obviously suggests there's not a lot of goals scored, but yet he's still scoring a fair amount of goals. He's the top goal scorer in the league. And that says that he's got 15 goals and he's the top goal scorer in the league. That shows how difficult the league is at the moment to score in.
Yeah, I think Lewandowski not being in the top 10 for you, it's not that wild, I'll be honest. If you're talking about the players this season, yeah, fair enough. He's not being anywhere near as good as he was maybe in 2020 when they won the champs. But yeah, my main point with Lewandowski is he's still the standard bearer at the moment, for up there with Haaland, up there with, you can say, Kane in terms of number, and up there with Benzema for number 9s. And I don't see, as I said, we don't watch this league every week, right? So there is some sort of guesswork we have to do, bro. But like,
his numbers were still good in the Champions League, though, right?
Yeah, his numbers are still.
I'm pretty sure he got like 6 goals in the group or 7 goals in the group or something like that.
Hat-trick against Lech Poznan or Victoria
Plzen.
yeah.
But still,
he needs to do those ones, man.
He needs to do those ones. I'm pretty sure he scored in the game against Inter as well.
And it's doing it against them and then getting to the knockout stage. You don't say anything about it, but then when you're drawing, not picking up points against Benfica and across 2 legs.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't think the Benfica one's that. I think Benfica are a good team. It's the Inter Milan one, which is the worry for me, because they are seriously average. Yeah. Benfica are actually quite a decent team.
They're a good team.
No Benfica players in the list.
Yeah, no Benfica players. Maybe Enzo could have been in the list.
If you're doing it like on form for the whole year, Enzo probably could have been there, bro.
Or Gonzalo Ramos, João Mario banging for them as well. So
yeah, João Mario's having a great season for them.
Not top 10.
Antonio Silva as well. Actually, he's at Porto, sorry.
Rafa Silva, you mean?
Alderweireld. No, Vertonghen, sorry.
Vertonghen. He's not there anymore.
He's at Anderlecht.
Is he not?
Anderlecht, yeah.
But yeah, they're a good team. Number 8, we've got the oldest player on this list. He made all of our lists. No one had him higher than 5th, but he's still doing it. 6 goals this season, all competitions, which is, he's on course to have his best season for Real Madrid in terms of goal scoring. Had a very solid World Cup, got to semi-finals for the second time in a row. Luka Modric, interesting one. Number 8, could say could be higher, could say could be lower. But this is what I do find interesting, right? He is one of the greats of the game, but his average SOF score rating this season is 7.06.
That's calm.
That's calm. But that's actually the 45th best in the whole of La Liga, right?
Right.
His fellow midfield partners, Toni Kroos and Fede Valverde, both clear him in that respect. They're both in the top 5. Toni Kroos 7.41, Fede Valverde 7.36. Pedri, Busquets, De Jong, even Rodrigo de Paul all have higher ratings than him on SofaScore on average. If we're going off top 10 active players, is he better than those players I've mentioned? Is he better than Pedri? Is he better than Toni Kroos even? Is he better than De Jong? I'm actually not sure, to be fair. And I put him in my list because, when I watch him in the Champions League, he still does his thing against Liverpool. He still runs the midfield. But they're not doing that great in the league. And I don't know, he's a funny one, man. I think top 10 active players in the world right now, maybe not.
I hear you, but with him, when it's a big game and the big occasion, he's going to have a great game. For instance, against Liverpool, he was great. Who have they got in the net? Is it City? Chelsea. It wouldn't surprise me if he's great over both legs.
Yeah.
Has a couple of moments in there. He's a man who, he's 36, 37 now.
Yeah, 37.
He's 37 years old. You can't expect a 37-year-old man to be impeccable every single week.
Yeah, but
if he can
top 10,
condition,
bro.
if he can condition himself to be influential in these top games that are going to win trophies, then he's worth being in the top 10 in the world.
Yeah.
Because we even seen with Ronaldo when he was in his early 30s with Madrid, Mourinho and Ancelotti a lot of the time would rest him in these games in the Liga and save him for the Champions League, and then he'd normally 9 times out of 10 pops up in the Champions League. So if you can condition yourself at that age to be available for the games that are going to win trophies, I don't have any complaints personally. And to be honest though, shout out Toni Kroos, because he is one of the most underrated footballers of all time. Like, he's a sensational footballer. But I think it's just because he's slow, people don't really because he don't really move much.
It's FIFA's fault, man.
Yeah, it's FIFA. It is FIFA's fault because he's not good on FIFA.
Yeah,
he's automatically not good to people in real life.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people, if they were going to name Madrid's top 3 midfielders, they'd probably say Modric, Valverde, and then Kroos, because Valverde's got 86 pace on FIFA.
Yeah. and that's a higher rating on SofaScore, to be fair.
Yeah, he does. But
yeah,
a lot of that was probably from the beginning of the season, I think.
Nah, that's fair. He was very good at the beginning of the season. After World Cup, he's not been as good. Keelan Modric at number 8. How do you feel about that?
I don't think I had Modric.
Okay, you didn't have Modric. Fair.
I had him 9th.
Yeah, I think I didn't have him. But I just think with, like I said, with the Kroos example, I think he's got a bit of his plaudits from his time sort of with Croatia and getting to finals and semi-finals. But I think with that Real Madrid midfield, like him, Casemiro, Kroos were very even in that midfield. That it was, I think, whenever I come to thinking about it, like, it's always a case that all 3 of them could be top 10, but I don't want to put all 3 of them in top 10, so I don't put any of them in. But he's not on my top 10. Just think it's hard to evaluate his game, and he's we've been really disappointed in their league performances this year, for the way Barca gets spoken about, but wasn't in mine.
That's fair. You know what, Louie? Keelan touched on the midfield trio Real Madrid had. Another player actually got no votes, right, is Casemiro. Casemiro got no votes.
I voted for Casemiro.
Okay,
I think I put Casemiro 8th.
Okay, all right, we'll verify that one, or you can verify it now. But Modric at 8 and Casemiro no votes. Does that sit well with you?
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, and it's not a fault on Casemiro. It's because he's a DM. Did any DM get a vote?
No. I was gonna put Rodri, but
there we go, man. It's a position that's underappreciated because they don't do a pretty job.
Yeah.
Whereas Modric is noticeably aesthetically pleasing on the pitch, whereas someone like perhaps a Casemiro, or I'm not going to say his name, number 5, or Rodri, might do the dirty work that goes unnoticed. And it was the same as, I used to rave about Michael Carrick. He done a lot of that dirty work. It's an underappreciated position. Sergio Busquets didn't get his plaudits until he was in his 30s, which is mad to me.
I've even think about it recently. I'm not his biggest fan, but compare the way Declan Rice is spoken about compared to how Jude Bellingham. It's crazy, to be fair. I mean, with the same level of player,
Rice
really.
is a better player than Jude Bellingham. I think right now he's a better player than Jude Bellingham. He's got more strings to his bow. I think if you switch both their positions around, I think Rice would be more effective in Bellingham's position than Bellingham is in Rice's position.
Like, hear that. To be fair, I hear that. Bellingham got no votes as well.
But Bellingham's he's got pretty privilege as well. I'm not gonna lie. If he wasn't like a handsome man, people wouldn't think he's as good as he is as well. You know, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think he's just got. I mean, if we're getting sidetracked now, I
I
don't know where the PR. I think he's a bit of a PR player, bro. I don't want to sound like a casual man, but honestly, I've never watched this guy and thought, fuck me, bro. Genuinely, he's mad athletic and that.
I will say,
I think people love athleticism, bro.
Against Senegal in the World Cup, he was very good. To be fair,
I think I was working that day, bro.
That game against he was great against Senegal. I will give him that.
Bare talent in that, but
he's almost treated like a career mode gem. Like just from the moment that he made his debut season, played 40 games or so with Birmingham in his debut season. I think people just felt like you can't like speak negatively about. Like even now he's like 19 and he's played like. He's
a tremendous talent.
Do you know, he's a freak. I'm pretty sure he's played like 190 games in like 4 seasons or something. He's a freak.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But I don't know. I'm not rating players just off minutes played.
Yeah, and
or else Inaki Williams would be on this list.
It's true. This is why Casemiro probably didn't make the top 10.
Yeah.
It's why Rodri didn't make the top 10. It's why 5 didn't make the top 10 because. You know,
the DMs.
They're DMs. People don't appreciate this position as much, and I understand. Like, people think that's the easiest job in the midfield. In my eyes, it's the hardest job to do in midfield, and that's why there's not that many of them, and that's why most of the good ones are either mid-20s or early 30s because it's a hard position to. You're on your own basically for most of the game. And you're having to put out fires, and you it's hard to let everyone else have the glory, man. Yeah. That's why I think Casemiro loves being at United so much because he can ping 40-yard passes and take shots from wherever he wants. He couldn't do that at Real Madrid, and that's why he looked happier lifting a Carabao Cup than I ever seen him lifting the Champions League. Because true. He's probably loving having the limelight for a bit, man.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's number 8 on our list, Luka Modric. I think that's. Fair. I mean, I know I said there's comments on him, but he's still a top player.
One of the goats of his position.
Definitely. At number 7, we have a player who I had at 9, but neither of you had him in your lists. 18 goals and 17 assists in 27 games this season. Neymar da Silva Santos
I regret
Jr.
not having him in, man. I will be honest.
He's equalled Pelé's record, 77 goals for Brazil. Unbelievable. Twice in his career, he's been third in Ballon d'Or. He's reached the FIFA Pro 11 twice. I know, only twice, which is a bit mad. Yeah, it's only twice.
I thought that would be at least 4 or 5.
Yeah, but obviously he's had inconsistency in terms of appearances. A league title in 3 different countries. He is the 4th highest paid athlete in all sports according to Forbes, but he's only 7th on this list. You know what, Keelan, I'll come to you first actually on this one. Neymar 7th. How does that sit with you?
Yeah, he's just not that good. Like he was good and he's entertaining, but yeah, like when guys like Salah aren't in the list and you're talking about like effectiveness, and yeah, okay, he might be more effective in a game, but said it before, the guy hasn't had a full season in about 6 years.
Yeah.
The fact that probably in this top 10 there's 3 forwards from the same club, and that club not really destroying the opposition in their league. They're been getting knocked out of the Champions League every year.
It's a team sport though.
It's a team sport, and I think I've got to account for the fact that by Neymar being in that surrounding, he's extremely limited on what he can offer. And I just think what he does offer, I just don't think there's enough to judge off him. He's always injured, like literally always injured. Every time when it gets, especially when you're talking about the Champions League games that you're looking out for, when it gets that sort of those big fixtures in the Champions League every year, he hasn't been there for 6 years, so I can't put him in my list because it's hard to. I have to very much go out my way to watch him play football. Yeah. He's not naturally in those big games at all. I have to watch like PSG v Nice or something to see him. Like, he's not those big games. Like it'd be interesting to see when the last time he's actually played in like a quite big fixture, because
probably 2020 Champions League final.
2020 Champions League final. And to be honest,
lost the ball like 50 times.
But the rest of that campaign,
and you've got to question that type of player when it does go wrong. It happened with Sanchez at Arsenal, but no one's doing it with Neymar at PSG.
He's still putting up good numbers with PSG.
He is. And let's be honest, it's a Marquinhos, who's a centre back, by the way. It's a Marquinhos penalty away from a World Cup semi-final. And who knows, they might have gone on to the final, and then the final would have been Argentina-Brazil. And who knows, man, they might have finally had Argentina's number, and they might have. And then we're talking about Neymar being a World Cup winner, and we're talking about him being in the conversation.
Maybe, yeah.
We're talking about him being in the conversation with Pele and the conversation with above Ronaldinho. You know, it's very fine margins, and we can't say he didn't step up when Brazil needed him, because he scored that great goal against Croatia. So he stepped up when Brazil needed him.
That's the thing,
and he got let down by his teammates, man. Like it's tough, and in the grand scheme of things, it's irrelevant, because who cares? They didn't win it. Football's about the glory, but he's been great this season, numbers wise. He stepped up for Brazil in the game they needed him the most. Got let down a little bit. Wasn't fit for the second leg against Bayern. His fault. You need to be available. Cool, but it's these fine margins, and I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him because I feel like one decision he made 4 or 5 years ago has probably made his career pan out completely different to how it should have done. But hindsight's 2020, because at the time most people were praising that move to PSG and saying, you know, oh, he's finally going to be out of Messi's limelight. You can't go on to win a Ballon d'Or if you're playing next to Messi. He'll always steal the limelight. And then he went to PSG, and it's just not happened for him. Whereas if he stayed at Bayern, who knows? He might have won a Ballon d'Or, man. He might have had a better season than Messi one year, and he might have won the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I think it's good he went to PSG. It is what it is. He's gone to PSG. He's had injury troubles. I think if you're going off ability, you can't question him being in the top 10. For me,
I agree.
Like when he's on the pitch, right? There's certain players. For me, the top 10, right? If everyone in my top 10, when they're on the pitch, they're not hiding. They're not good in these games. In the small game, well, you could say Lewandowski maybe, but small games, you notice them. The big games, you notice them. The players who didn't quite make the top 10 for me are players who I feel like in some games, nah, they're not going to do it. Neymar, in every game he plays, is doing a madness, bro. I remember last season against Bayern Munich, crazy games, man.
Yeah.
And again, the record this season, for me, he was actually on course to being one of the best players, period, in Europe this season. So ability-wise, you can't question him. I think, appearances-wise, that's where you can question him. But I looked at his top 10 current players active playing the game right now. Still have him in there, man.
I also think as well, like, people don't respect Liga. If he was putting up them numbers for Juventus or Barcelona or someone else, people would have him.
But do you respect Liga, to be fair?
I respect Liga.
Yeah,
I respect Liga. I think every time I watch it, I think it's difficult, man.
Yeah. Keelan, you respect Liga?
It's difficult.
Nah, not really.
Did you see the Nice manager? What he said? I don't know if it was Nice or
well, still
no. He manages Reims.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, he used to coach Torino. He said about Ligue 1, he said, whenever we play, I think he's the Nice manager, he says, whenever we play a game in Ligue 1, even if it's against the bottom team, there's always 4 or 5 players who I would like to take. He says, when I was playing at Inter Milan and when I was a coach at Torino, you go to the bottom Serie A teams and there's not a single player I'd take from those teams. He says, whereas in Ligue 1, he was basically saying the baseline level of Ligue 1 is a lot higher than most of the leagues in Europe, but the top of Ligue 1 is a lot lower than the top of the other leagues in Europe, basically.
I think that's fair, yeah.
So he was basically saying the teams from like 16th through to 8th are very strong in terms of comparative to the other teams in Europe that are from 16th to 8th, whereas the top, it's only really PSG. So as a baseline, it's actually a lot tougher. And we see that because we see PSG losing to teams like Troyes and Nice and Reims and stuff like that. So I do think as a league, it's quite a strong league, but it's just the top of the league isn't anywhere near as good as the top of the leagues around Europe. It's just PSG.
It is just PSG. And PSG have got way more spending power than any other team in that league, so it makes it really difficult for any team to close on them. And when you do have a Monaco, all their players get snapped up. But 7th on the list. I think if you're talking about Neymar's ability and what he could produce if he plays every game, he could be higher. He wasn't higher for me because of that. There's players who are above him who have just proved it way more. But the players below him, like,
Could I put a quick question?
Yeah,
out
man,
there?
go on.
Just in terms of style, obviously Rashford's not in the list. Is he that different to Rashford? Because
Yes.
I really want to reiterate the point where with Neymar, he is always, you'll notice him every game he plays.
Yeah.
But the fact is, sometimes you really
converting.
don't want that. Like, there's sometimes you just want your forward to just be hidden the whole game and then just pop up with a goal. You don't want.
Yeah.
He doesn't let football flow naturally sometimes, which is really what I've got against him, because he'll just pick up the ball at the halfway line and just try be a hero. And yeah, there's some awful stats out there of him losing the ball an absurd amount of times in games. And I think that with Rashford, he's very much painted as like running into defenders. Sort of like doesn't really know what he's doing. But I think like with Neymar, it's praised. It's like when Neymar does it, it's in good faith. But when Rashford does it, he's like a bozo. Like,
I get what you're saying, right? And I agree. I actually think that's a good trait about both of them. It's frustrating, but at least man's not hiding. At least you want they want to, every game they play, they want to win, bro. Like they want to win for the team rather than just simply scoring a goal that might not benefit the team as much. They want to get things going. They want to. I think that's a trait that all the top players have. I think even Messi, when he doesn't play great, at least he's trying to get on the ball and he's trying to dribble. He's trying to have these key passes and stuff like that. I think that's a good trait from both of them. The difference between Neymar and Rashford is Rashford, when he does it, like, it never comes off. Neymar will lose the ball a lot, but he is. It comes off more often. It comes off more often. Whereas with Rashford, it's like he'll have a poor game and he'll be trying things, and it just looks so bad. Because the thing is with Rashford, when he loses the ball, it's because he gets the ball from 40 yards out and just smashes it over the bar. Whereas with Neymar, he's trying to dribble. He's trying to do passes that, like, he could easily get the ball and just pass backwards. He's trying to run at people. He's trying to make things happen. He's trying to get things going. So I think that's the difference between the two of them. But do you know what? I get your point. It's a good point. They both do lose the ball a lot, but it's because they both want to stand up and be counted. Yeah,
I feel like as from a coaching perspective as well, like, yeah, the whole team identity in modern football, I feel like if I was a coach, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near Neymar. He'd vex me. Like,
but it's the same as Mbappe, though.
Because he's just overriding the tactics, and it's pure just vibes.
It's the same as Mbappe, though. I've seen a lot of games of Mbappe where he is trying to dribble and it doesn't come off, or he's trying to get a shot away and it doesn't come off, or he doesn't party. He'll be 1-on-1 with the keeper, and rather than squaring it, he'll try and shoot and it doesn't come off. It happens, man. Like, Mbappe is the exact same. If you watch PSG, for instance,
Mbappe is not the exact same, bro. I'll be real. I have to cut you off because, bro, Mbappe, like, for France, he fits in quite seamlessly, bro. Like, just gets in behind, and that's kind of
no,
it. He
does. But did you watch against Bayern the other day?
I didn't watch that game, actually.
He had three occasions where he was trying to. He took a heavy touch twice.
Yeah.
He had another one where he should have squared it and he smashed it straight at the keeper. He had another one where he could have laid it backwards and he's trying to shoot. He's trying to make things happen because he feels like he has to step up and take responsibility.
Maybe that's where the tactics got to come.
And it's happened a couple of times for France as well. Yeah. It happened against England, for instance. He was trying to do it. The one thing came off that led to the first goal. Yeah. But he's trying to do things and it's not coming off. But at least he's trying to do things. It's not like he's stood there on the touchline not getting involved. It's just he's just way more effective with it than Neymar and Rashford as well.
I think what Neymar needs... I was going to say what Neymar needs is like a Messi, because when he was at MSN, it's like there's a player who is above me in the ranks, so I ain't gonna be trying half the things because that's his job. Obviously, Messi's there at PSG now.
Yeah, it's a different Messi now, isn't it? Messi probably needs that player now as well.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, man. I think Neymar... I actually don't think he's as wasteful as you make out, Keelan, bro. I don't think he's...
Yeah, I think it's the mixture of things and just his lack of presence.
Maybe.
But then, just some of the games like that, against Bayern, Champions League final especially, absolute stinker. Like,
I hear that.
They were all really poor that day, though, I think.
Yeah, I hear that. Look, Neymar, number 7 on the list, on form, because he's not really about, maybe not, but active players, top 10.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.